Welcome back to The Word. I'm your host, Max Dutton, reporting for the Baker Orange. On this week's episode, we'll take a look at the campus severe weather policy, stock trading, and get an update on the sports action for our Wildcats. Before we get started, we'd like to announce that The Word has added 4 new members to our team this spring. Adam Cook, Dara Underwood, Marissa Shimke, and Josh Smith will be great additions to our crew. Along with that, we'll now be releasing a new episode every week. Now let's get started with the news. On February 15th, Baker Student Senate passed a resolution that said all students should be kept safe and avoid health risks from frigid temperatures and snow. In order to do this, the Student Senate recommended that Baker would establish an official policy regarding severe weather. The day after this was passed by Student Senate, Baker announced the closure of campus on Tuesday, February 16th. Trading stocks has become more and more popular across the world. People are starting to spend large amounts of their own money to take risks and invest in stock trading. Here at Baker, we have some students doing the same thing. Marissa Shimke and Dara Underwood took a deep dive into the ins and outs of people trading stocks here at Baker.
Hello everyone, this is Marissa Shimke. What do Dogecoin, GameStop, and Bitcoin have in common? They are all types of stocks that have been in the news recently. What are stocks? Kevin Conley, Assistant Professor of Business and Economics, is here to tell us more about them.
There's a whole bunch of different kinds of stocks, but in essence, they are an ownership interest in a company. Right? So when you purchase a stock, you are buying an ownership stake in whatever company it is.
How do stocks benefit students?
So from an educational standpoint, stocks are going to be important to everyone when they're doing retirement planning and planning for long-term investment growth. So the more you learn about them as a student, the better prepared you are for the real world, which is kind of what the point of education is.
While stocks can be beneficial to students, what are the risks involved?
The problem with stocks are they go both directions, right? So if the better a company does, the higher the stock price, potentially the more money you make. On the flip side, if you buy an interest in a company that doesn't do as well, the stock price goes down or can even become worthless. My advice to students on stocks is start small. So if you're going for long-term investment, I think a mutual fund is a great way to start. Lower costs of entry on ETFs and great diversification. So less risk, easier entry than getting into stocks.
Now that we know a little bit more about stocks, let's talk to a couple students here at Baker about their experience with investing.
Before the pandemic, I bought a bunch of stock when the national shutdown happened, and then as soon as we reopened, I sold it all, so I don't have any right now.
I actually have a mutual fund, and it is the Capital Group American Growth Fund.
What advice do you have for other students?
All new investors, anybody that doesn't know anything, if you hear about it on social media, it's already too late.
My advice to other students would be to start investing as quick as you can, because the quicker you invest, the more interest you're going to incur, and by the time you retire, the more money you're going to have.
I might need to check out the stock market myself and invest. That's it for this week. I'm Marissa Shimke.
Thanks, ladies. Great reporting. Every week, Adam Cook will take you through all of the sports action you need to know with his new segment, the 2-Minute Drill. What are the Wildcats up to this week, Adam?
Thanks, Max. I'm Adam Cook, and welcome to the first edition of the 2-Minute Drill. This week in Wildcat Nation was a wild one, with plenty of games across all of our active spring and winter sports. It's been a freezing cold week in Kansas, but your Baker sports teams have been red hot. We start off with men's basketball, who began the week at home against the Peru State Bobcats on Thursday. Baker lost to Peru State 3 times last year, including the conference tournament, and came into this one determined to set the record straight. This game was a tight one all the way through, Peru State leading at half 29-28, and the rest of the game went back and forth until there were 5 minutes left, and the Wildcats bolstered their 4-point lead behind a scoring onslaught from the night's points leader, junior Jalen Patterson, who scored 5 points to propel the Cats to the victory. Wildcats 70, Wildcats 80. The battle of ferocious felines continued on Saturday when your Baker Wildcats hosted the Wildcats of Culver Stockton for Baker's Senior Day, and the team's 2 seniors and 1 early graduate junior, Colby Bullock, Michael Brooks, and Colton Oakes, were recognized before the game. Baker's Wildcats came out with extra energy for their seniors in this one, as junior Jalen Patterson scored a career-high 27 points behind 7 3-pointers, becoming 1 of 4 on the team to reach double digits, one of which being senior Michael Brooks. Baker led by a wide margin for most of the first half, but Culver Stockton cut the lead to 5 before the first half clock hit 0. This would be a last glimmer of hope for the Wildcats from Canton, as Baker came out firing in the second half, extending their lead all the way up to 23 before the end of the game, giving Baker their 4th straight dub and keeping them in the hunt to make the conference tournament. Culver Stockton 73, your Baker Wildcats 89. And for Baker's third game of the week, they traveled all the way to Lamoni, Iowa to face off against the Graceland Yellow Jackets Monday night. Despite the week's cold weather, the Cats came out scalding hot, with 6 different players scoring in double digits, led by senior Michael Brooks with 17. Even though the Yellow Jackets cut the lead to 1 upon halftime, the game never felt out of control for Baker, as a 3-pointer by junior Trent Shear in the second half was the last time the Wildcats would have to retake the lead all game, coasting in their 5th straight victory. Wildcats 91, Yellow Jackets 74. The men's basketball team is already on their way to Cedar Rapids, Iowa to face off against Mount Mercy University as part of a 2-game road trip in which they must win 1 of the 2 to make the conference tournament. Best of luck to our Baker Ballers this week. Next, we have the women's basketball team, who started the week off against the 25th ranked squad in the NAI, the Bobcats from the College of the Ozarks, on Thursday night. Baker led the game 32-27 with 2:18 to play in the first half behind a hot streak from sophomore Kinley Grubb, but the College of the Ozarks would end up making their way back and tying the game at 32 going into halftime. The Cats held on to a lead for majority of the third quarter and held on to that lead until 5:47 mark in the fourth, when the Bobcats held on for the rest of the game, despite 2 free throws from Grubb with 23 seconds left to cut the lead to 1. The Bobcats then sealed the game with 3 free throws of their own, defeating Baker by only 4 points. Wildcats 69, Bobcats 73. After giving the 25th ranked team in the country a run for their money, the Cats hosted Culver Stockton for a senior day of their own prior to the men's game, honoring their 2 seniors, Elizabeth Stark and Daisy Awansia, for the last home game of the season. It was a back-and-forth game for both sides in the first half, but Baker was able to take a 28-23 lead into halftime. It must have been one heck of a halftime speech as they came out in the third quarter to a quick 13-point lead, eventually leading by 20 in the fourth. But by the end of the game, the closest Culver would bring the game to is a 10-point deficit as the Baker Wildcats run away with this one, Baker 65, Culver Stockton 55. The ladies play next on the road at Mount Mercy University on Thursday. Now we'll go from one court to another as the men's and women's tennis teams played at William Jewell College on Friday. For the men's team, the squad won their number 2 and number 3 doubles games with the pairings of Marcus Elsey and Carson Fitzgerald winning 6 matches to 4, and Max Havorka and Davis Stedman winning theirs by default. Elsey and Stedman also won their number 3 and number 6 singles matches, but the Wildcats fell just short in this one. William Jewell Cardinals 4, Baker Wildcats 3. For the women's side of the slate, both the number 1 and number 2 doubles pairings of Kaylee Smith and Cortland Wolf and Patricia and Josephine Moore not only won their matchups but shut out the Cardinals 6-0 in each one. Wolf, Patricia Moore, and Taylor Jarvis all came away with singles dubs as well, lifting the Wildcat women to their 3rd straight win. Wildcats 4, Cardinals 2. Since the men's and women's team's Saturday matchup at Ottawa University was postponed due to the freezing temperatures, the team's next games are Saturday, February 20th in Lawrence, Kansas against Rockhurst. Last but not least, we have men's wrestling who traveled to Oskaloosa, Iowa on Saturday to partake in the Heart of America Conference Championships / National Qualifiers. The team finished 4th out of 6 at the meet, but had 11 wrestlers qualify for the NAI and National Championships, including sophomore Brett Bober, who won a Heart of America Conference Championship this weekend. Lots of Wildcats has had successful showings on Saturday, including Bober's 3-0 record and Heart of America Conference Championship, Dylan Pallen's 2nd place finish and National Championship qualification, Osceola Flores' 13-0 major decision, and Dominic Arellano's 2-1 record, losing in only the 1st place match and taking 2nd place. That's all we got for this edition of the 2-Minute Drill. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Take it away, Max.
Thanks, Adam. Before we end this week's episode, we'd like to have a brief moment of silence to remember Baker student Caitlin Riley, who passed away last month. Caitlin will forever be a Wildcat, and we send our sincerest condolences to her family. Well, there you have it. Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Word. Remember to keep up to date with all things Baker Orange by following us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Baker Orange. While you're at it, you can also follow the Twitter page for our show at BU_The Word. See you next week.